The day started innocuously enough, though I suppose that's how most nightmares begin. Liam and I had recently moved to the industrial town of Ridgewood after my divorce. It was a fresh start for us, but Ridgewood had a way of clinging to the past. On weekends, I often took Liam exploring. The town's outskirts were dotted with crumbling factories and half-buried relics of a bygone era. It was on one of these outings that we stumbled upon it. The asylum. I saw it before Liam did. A massive looming structure, its stone facade darkened with decades of grime. The air around it felt wrong, heavy somehow. Liam, with the unshakable curiosity of an 8-year-old, bolted toward it. "Stay close." I called, following him reluctantly. The wrought iron gate stood ajar, and a weathered sign barely legible through layers of rust read, "Ridgewood Asylum for the Mentally Afflicted." The sight of it sent a shiver down my spine. Inside, nature had begun reclaiming the asylum. Vines crept up the walls, and the courtyard was overrun with weeds. Liam darted between crumbled benches and broken fountains, his laughter echoing unnaturally against the decaying walls. I wanted to leave, but something about the place held me in place. A morbid magnetism I couldn't explain. It wasn't long before Liam met him. "Mom." Liam called one afternoon, running into the living room. "I met someone at the old hospital. He said he used to live there." The blood drained from my face. "Liam, what did I say about talking to strangers?" "Who was he?" Liam shrugged, unconcerned. "Just a man. He said his name was Benjamin." I tried to dismiss it as an imaginary friend, a phase, but then I found the drawings. They were everywhere. On the back of his homework, on scraps of paper stuffed under his bed. Drawings of the asylum, detailed and haunting. Its jagged windows, its collapsing roof, and always, in every sketch, a figure, a shadowy man with a distorted face, standing in the doorway. "Liam," I demanded one evening, holding one of the drawings. "Who is this?" He looked at me with those wide, innocent eyes that now seemed unnervingly knowing. "It's Benjamin. He said he knows your secret." The word struck me like a physical blow. I laughed nervously, brushing off, but deep down, something stirred. I hadn't thought about my family's connection to Ridgewood in years. Hadn't wanted to. My grandfather, Dr. Nathaniel Cole, had been a respected physician, or so I'd been told. After his death, whispers of his darker work emerged, rumors of experiments conducted at the asylum. I never knew the details, nor had I wanted to, but now, with Liam's words echoing in my head, I couldn't ignore the nagging sense that Benjamin was more than just a figment of Liam's imagination. I dug through old family records late into the night, piecing together a horrifying picture. Nathaniel Cole hadn't just been a physician. He had been the asylum's director, orchestrating barbaric experiments under the guise of treatment. Electroshock therapy, lobotomies, chemical trials. His methods were cruel even by the standards of the time. The patients he subjected to these horrors were often forgotten by their families, deemed unfit for society. And yet, one name stood out in the records: Benjamin Weller. The entries on him were brief but chilling. Persistent delusions, resist treatment, escalated to experimental intervention. The final note was dated October 16th, 1935. Patient deceased. Liam's behavior grew stranger with each passing day. He spent hours at the asylum, returning home with dirt under his nails and clothes. He whispered to himself in his room, his voice overlapping with faint echoes that shouldn't have been possible in our house. One night, I woke to find him standing at the foot of my bed. "Benjamin says you have to fix what Grandpa did," he whispered. I didn't sleep after that. Desperate, I returned to the asylum alone. The air inside was suffocating. Every creak and groan of the old building amplified in the silence. The halls were littered with broken glass and discarded restraints. I found my way to the records room, where I uncovered the truth about Benjamin's death. He hadn't died during an experiment. He had taken his own life, hanging himself in his cell. The notes described his final days as incoherent ramblings about revenge and bloodlines. The realization chilled me. He was tied to us, my family, through the atrocities of my grandfather. When I returned home, I confronted Liam. "You can't go back there," I pleaded, gripping his shoulders. It's too late, he said flatly. Benjamin's already here. The lights flickered, and a cold wind swept through the room. I felt a presence then, a suffocating pressure that seemed to watch from every shadow. Benjamin wanted release, but not without retribution. Guided by old books and desperate internet searches, I found a ritual that could sever his connection to our world. It required his personal item, his name, and a bloodline sacrifice. I hesitated as I lit the candles in the asylum's crumbling chapel. Liam stood beside me, eerily calm. "It's the only way," he said, though the voice wasn't entirely his. As I chanted, the walls seemed to tremble. Benjamin's figure materialized, his face a grotesque mask of rage and torment. "You cannot erase what's been done," he snarled. "I'm sorry," I sobbed, "for everything." The ritual ended with a flash of light and a deafening silence. Benjamin was gone, but so was Liam's voice. He hasn't spoken a word since that night. Doctors can't find a medical reason, and therapy hasn't helped. He scribbles furiously in his notebooks, the pages filled with chaotic drawings and the occasional word. But he's never alone. When the house is quiet, I hear whispers, faint, unintelligible murmurs. Liam hears them too. They'll never leave us. I thought freeing Benjamin would end this. I was wrong. Some sins can't be undone. It was supposed to be just another spontaneous adventure. Max and I were driving through endless fields, the horizon stretched thin and golden by the late afternoon sun. It was one of those trips where you let the road decide where you end up. We had been laughing about how lost we were when the silhouette of the old train station appeared, almost mirage-like, in the distance. "I bet it's abandoned," Max said, grinning, his eyes lighting up with curiosity. The building was vintage, almost regal despite the wear of time. Faded red bricks framed wide, arched windows. Ivy crept across the facade, curling into the cracks like claws. The sign above the entrance read, Westwood Junction, though the letters were barely legible through the peeling paint. We decided to explore. Inside, it smelled of mildew and dust, the air thick with an unsettling quiet. Our footsteps echoed in the cavernous space, where benches sat in perfect rows, as if waiting for travelers who'd never arrive. Cobwebs hung in thick, shimmering curtains. Max ran his hand over the ticket counter and called out playfully, "2 tickets to nowhere, please." That's when I first heard it, the faint crackle of the PA system. A woman's voice, static and eerie, whispered, "The train is arriving." Max and I froze. We exchanged nervous smiles, brushing it off as some fluke of old wiring. No train arrived, of course. The tracks outside were as rusted and forgotten as the station itself. We ventured further, down dark hallways lined with faded posters of smiling families and distant destinations. In a storage room, Max found a suitcase, a small battered thing, tucked beneath a pile of rotting wood. He opened it without hesitation. Inside were children's belongings, a threadbare teddy bear, a pair of scuffed shoes, and a neatly folded shirt. There was also a crumpled note. Max smoothed it out and read aloud. Max, age 8. Please return to Westwood Junction. My stomach twisted. The name, the ominous simplicity of the words. Max laughed it off, tossing the note back into the suitcase. But I couldn't shake the unease that gripped me. "Let's go," I said firmly. "This place is giving me the creeps." He tried to reassure me, but I practically dragged him out. The setting sun painted the station in shades of crimson as we returned to the car. Max seemed disappointed to leave, but I couldn't have been happier to put distance between us and that place. That night, I woke to the sound of a train whistle. Sharp, piercing, and too close. I bolted upright. Max was already at the window, staring out. His face was pale in the moonlight. "Linda," he whispered, "come look." Reluctantly, I joined him. Outside, the station was bathed in an unnatural glow. A train, silver and shimmering like a mirage, was pulling into the platform. It wasn't real. It couldn't be real. The windows flickered with ghostly figures, their faces blurred like smudged photographs. A conductor stood on the platform. His uniform was pristine, his posture rigid. He looked up directly at us and smiled. It was a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Come on," Max said, already heading for the door. What? Are you insane? I grabbed his arm. You're not going down there. But he was transfixed. It's just a dream, he said, as if to reassure himself. Come with me? I shook my head, my gut screaming that this was wrong. Very wrong. Max shrugged me off and headed outside. I followed reluctantly, stopping at the edge of the station's platform. The air was frigid, and the train's light cast long, shifting shadows. The conductor extended a gloved hand toward Max. Your journey awaits, he said, his voice deep and smooth. Max hesitated, turning back to me. Linda, it's fine. Just a little fun. No, Max. Please, don't. The conductor's smile widened, impossibly so, revealing teeth that were sharp and gleaming. I saw it then. The darkness in his eyes, the void that swallowed all light. Max took a step forward. Wait! I shouted, reaching for him. But the moment his hand touched the conductor's, the world seemed to shatter. A deafening roar filled the air as the train surged to life. Max! I screamed, but he was gone, whisked away with the train. It vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind only silence and the faint scent of smoke. I collapsed to my knees, tears streaming down my face. My gaze fell to ground where the suitcase now lay, eerily pristine despite the years. The note was there again, the one Max had read earlier. But this time there was more. In childlike scrawl it read, Max age 8. Please return to Westwood Junction. I'm waiting. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The Max I knew wasn't the first Max. He wasn't even the first to vanish. This place that took people, collected them like souvenirs. And now I was alone. Days turned into weeks. I returned to the station every night, hoping, praying for the train to reappear, for Max to step off, smiling and whole. But all I ever heard was the whisper of the PA system, announcing arrivals that never came. Now I live with the guilt, the unbearable truth that I couldn't save him. And every night, I hear the train whistle in my dreams, calling me back. Maybe one day I'll go. Maybe one day I'll step aboard and find him. Or maybe the train will take me somewhere I can never return from. But until then, I wait, just like the station, just like the ghosts,